If you've ever been told, don't go in there, and then immediately gone in there anyway, you know exactly how I felt staring at that cabin. It looked like it had been abandoned since the dawn of bad decisions. The roof sagged like it was tired of existing. The windows were covered in grime, and the front steps were so warped they looked like they were trying to crawl away from the building. Carson didn't even hesitate, just walked up to the door like he was late for an appointment with the Grim Reaper. I stood there for a second, mentally calculating how much of my obituary could be written as, well, she asked for it. The creak we'd heard earlier came again, louder this time, and I realized the door was already open a crack. Carson pushed it the rest of the way. The sound it made was straight out of a horror movie, long, slow, and full of "you're making a mistake." Inside, the air was musty and thick, like it hadn't been breathed in for years. Our flashlight beams sliced through the darkness, catching dust motes that floated like tiny ghosts. The place had one room, a fireplace on one side, and a single table in the middle with a chair tipped over beside it. "Cozy," Carson muttered. I stepped in, trying to ignore the floorboards groaning under my sneakers. Cozy in a "this is where people get murdered" kind of way, sure. We did the obvious thing. Split up to look around, because why stick together when you can increase the odds of someone disappearing? Carson went toward the fireplace. I checked the table. There were scratches in the wood, deep ones, like someone had dragged something heavy across it. My brain didn't love that detail. Then Carson called out, "Hey, check this out." I walked over, expecting a dead rat or something equally traumatizing. Instead, he was crouched down, tapping on the floorboards. One spot sounded hollow. "You thinking what I'm thinking?" he asked. "If you're thinking treasure chest full of cash, then yes." He pried the board up with his hands, which, by the way, is not normal strength. Carson must have been born with crowbars for fingers, and there it was, a metal box, about the size of a shoebox, covered in rust. I looked at him. He looked at me. And then, in perfect unison, we said, "Open it." It took some effort. Rust is basically nature's way of telling you to mind your business, but eventually, Carson popped the latch. The lid creaked open to reveal. Not gold. Not jewels. Not even old love letters. Puppets. Yep. A whole box of creepy, hand-carved wooden puppets with peeling paint and glassy eyes that seemed way too interested in me. Carson tilted his head. "Well, that's not what I was expecting." "Same. And I hate it." One of them had a little top hat. Another was missing an eye. The smallest one was grinning like it knew something I didn't. Which, frankly, was rude. "I don't like how they're staring at us," I said, inching back. "They're puppets," Carson said. "They can't stare." As if on cue, the wind outside picked up and the door slammed shut. My heart launched into my throat like it was trying to escape. We both froze. "That was just the wind," Carson said. "Uh-huh. And I'm just a quiet, obedient camper." We were about to shove the box back under the floor when I heard it, a faint tapping sound, coming from somewhere in the cabin. Slow, deliberate, like fingers on wood. Carson swung his flashlight around, but the beam didn't catch anything. The tapping stopped. Then, it started again. "Okay," I said, "time to leave." Carson didn't argue. We shoved the box back, dropped the floorboard into place, and made a beeline for the door. He pulled it open, and we stepped into the night like it was a warm hug from a friend who definitely wasn't possessed by puppets. The whole walk back to camp, neither of us said a word. Not until we reached the mess hall, where Carson finally turned to me and said, "We're going back tomorrow night." I stared at him. "You're out of your mind." "Maybe. But I have to know why someone hid those things there." And here's the worst part. I already knew I was going with him. Because if there's one thing I can't stand, it's an unfinished scandal.